I'm Heather Matarazzo, and you're listening to You Might Know Her From with Damien and Anne.
Hello and welcome to another episode of You Might Know Her From
with Damien and Anne.
It is me, Damien, chronically late because I'm chronically lost.
It is me, Anne. I used to be very punctual. I think something happened in the last 10 years where I got less punctual, but I'm still working on reading a map. I think I'm like a novice still at this point of map reading.
I've been wanting to talk to you about something. Also, in addition to this, which was I was on Twitter the other day and I was down this wormhole of Muppet stuff because I got a pair of Muppet socks from my mother for Christmas and Miss Piggy wasn't on them, and I was literally there are 5 or 6 pairs of socks, a Gonzo pair, a pair that have Kermit, a pair that have Kermit, Gonzo, and Fozzie, a pair that's just Animal, a pair that's Bunsen and Beaker. Miss Piggy nowhere to be found. And my sister made a great point, which was any grown man who's wearing Muppets on his socks, I'm sure is fine with Miss Piggy. They're not going to be I only want the male identified Muppets. And I was that is an excellent point.
Yeah.
So then I was tweeting about it. I was complaining about it. My wonderful friend Alex so generously sent me a pair of Miss Piggy socks that I was surprised by. So anyway, then all of this was happening. Thank you, Alex, for those Miss Piggy socks. And I was on Twitter and I was tweeting at the Muppets and then tweeting at Miss Piggy. And then I was then Twitter was feeding me Pepe the Prawn, and I was I love the Muppets. The Muppets, I think, are my comedy icons. But if there's one Muppet that I hate, it's Pepe the fucking Prawn. And you know what? On Twitter, it told me that my best friend, Ann Rodeman, was following Pepe the Prawn, and I was annoyed. I wrote it down. I was what the fuck? Of all the Muppets to be following, why the fuck are you following the Muppet that was made in 2017?
Wait, I first of all, I don't even know who it is. I vaguely think I can see what his face looks like, but I think, okay, I have to explain myself because I actually have no recollection of following this Muppet, and I don't even think I knew that the other Muppets had Twitter accounts.
Apparently they all do, which was a discovery, yeah.
Okay, so I didn't know this, but I must have followed Pepe the Prawn because somebody tweeted something he said. Is it a he? Is it a he?
Or they, them, but not a she.
Okay, so I followed them unknowingly, but I think, here's what I'm going to blame it on. Remember, I can't even remember its name. Who's that thing for the Philadelphia hockey team?
Oh,
with the eyeballs.
Not Grizzy. What is his name?
It was to me.
He's the Flyers mascot. He's the hockey team, and what the fuck is his name?
They introduced him, and I was very into this hockey mascot. I like mascots in general.
Gritty. I'm so sorry, Philly. Gritty.
Yeah. So I think to me, Pepe the Prawn reads as a gritty type, and he must have said something funny on Twitter, and I followed him. I said, you know what? This guy, whoever's running Pepe's account, has got their finger on the pulse, has got their prongle on the pulse.
She's generous with a follow. She's generous with... I was this is disgusting to me. If you're a Muppet head, if you're a Muppet fan, slide into my DMs and let me know what you think of Pepe. Because for me, he's the worst because it's a way of them trying to stay young and current.
Is he an Abby Cadabby or something? Abby Cadabby honestly is probably 20 years old at this point.
Yeah,
I don't know who the
I agree. I'm always Zoe's old,
are.
and then I was or young, but I think all of those female Sesame Muppets that they added post Prairie Dawn, I feel are old now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an Abby Cadabby, but later probably. Remember that it's they try to reinvent Kermit, so they've done Bean the Bunny, and they've done whatever the stupid little fuck in the Muppets movie with Jason Segel was, and then there's Pepe the Prawn, and I'm I'm not interested in
How did you feel about that Jason Segel movie? I don't think I've ever talked to you about it, actually.
I was very sentimental for it because I love the Muppets, and it was so great to see them on the big screen and them have musical numbers. I took issue with Jason Segel being... I have no issues with him really, but I took issue with the male lead character being Jason Segel because that's not how the Muppet movies work. It's you can be a character in it, but they aren't you aren't the protagonist, and he was.
Yes.
So that was my biggest issue with it, but I thought it was It was fine. It was like modern Muppets. Some of them have weird voices now because there's like new people doing them.
I know.
Then they made another one, like Muppets Most Wanted, and that was actually actively bad, and it was disappointing.
Yeah, I didn't see that one.
What did you think of the Muppets Most Wanted?
I didn't see Muppets Most Wanted. I saw the other one with Jason Segel, and I have real fondness for like the Muppets Take Manhattan and the Muppet Movie and like the Muppet Show, which was like my frame
and the Great
reference.
Muppet Caper. Who doesn't
The Great
love
Muppet Caper.
like the parody of the action movie with Miss Piggy like diving through like a glass ceiling on a motorcycle is so fucking cool.
Yeah. I agree with you, but mostly it's just sad to listen to somebody like imitate the version of the voice that like we all grew up with, or some of us grew up with. It's like, this does not sound like Jim Henson. This is obnoxious sounding. I don't like it. So if we can like, I don't know, actually don't know if we can cryogenically freeze people, but like I feel like we're about to be able to, or they probably have the ability to do it, but they haven't told us yet. Why can't they fucking replicate people's voices before they die so we never have to deal with like a replacement actor coming in to like try to attempt to do the same voice as Jim Henson?
Is Walt Disney still frozen? Did you tell me this? I read something recently.
His head is frozen. This is like, I think it's like an urban legend that like he was frozen so that like he can be like reincarnated, like cryogenically
that he was
reanimated. Yeah.
But then I thought I read something recently that like Disney, somebody like tried to like wipe the internet clean of like of Walt Disney's Frozen talk because like there's so much. Like that was part of the reason that Frozen happened. I like feel like I swear I read this.
What?
That
Frozen the movie musical?
Because then people would Google like Walt Disney Frozen, and you would no longer find information.
They had to change the SEO value.
Yes.
Okay.
They were like trying to wipe the internet clean of people making jokes or like talking about Walt Disney actually being Frozen.
This is all I'm going to do now. I'm going to litter all of my social media feeds with like. No, I didn't tell you this, but I am obsessed with Walt Disney being cryogenically frozen
to me.
Yeah,
that they were like, we don't want this to be associated with the brand of Disney anymore. So like, let's make a movie about an ice princess, and we'll call it Frozen, so that people fucking stop googling. Well, and it's so cool. The way I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, I don't know.
This is the truth.
Did I make this up? I think someone told me it, or I listened to it somewhere, or heard it, or read it. But anyway, I 100% believe it.
I'm going to put this all over social media. I might have to, I think Parler got shut down, but I'll go on Signal or some other like fourth party site. Yeah, I'll go on an alt site to just make sure everybody, terrorists aside, I'll let everybody know that this is the truth.
Yeah, we're going to post this on social so that we get shut down when the Disney Corp comes after us.
I can't even begin to tell you how excited we are to have you hear this week's episode. Damien and I listened back to it after the beautiful Daniel Sears gave it to us, and we thought, this is one of our favorites that we've had in a very long time. We got to sit down with Heather Matarazzo, who is like just the star of so many things that are important to the two of us. Also, I have to say that she's on the younger end of any guest we've ever had on the show. And we're like of the same generation, which doesn't usually happen. As you know, our key demographic is like 55 plus and veering higher and higher with each episode. But it was really so cool to talk to Heather about like being a lesbian, coming out as like being a young person who was like a really talented young actor who then like grew up in the business, came out in the
Disney machine, was literally in the Princess Diaries films and came out.
Exactly. So maybe, we didn't talk to her about this, but maybe Heather is the person to talk to about Walt Disney's head.
I'm going to email her and ask.
The point is, we get into so much goodness with her, so we're not even going to give it more talk up than that. I think we're ready to roll right into it.
You might know her from The Princess Diaries 1 and 2,
Saved,
Welcome to the Dollhouse,
Scream 3,
Hostel Part 2,
The Devil's Advocate,
Roseanne,
and The L Word. This is huge for us. This has been maybe years in the making, but we are here finally with actress, writer, director, producer, Heather Matarazzo. Heather, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Okay, so just bear with us because we're coming in extremely hot. You appear in one of our favorite shows of all time, and it's a frequent topic of the podcast, and that's, of course, The L Word. You were also a series regular on the Logo show X's and O's, which I watched religiously as like a closeted 20-something. You're an out lesbian, and you were out while working on both of these shows, which had creative teams that were composed mostly of women and tons of lesbians. So at that point in your career, you had sort of 10 plus years under your belt in the industry already, but were you excited to play gay and work on lesbian sets, or was there a part of you that had reservations because Hollywood has such a limited imagination and might only see you as a lesbian?
I was excited for the paycheck.
I love keeping it real.
Yeah, regardless of whether I'm playing straight or lesbian, at the end of the day, is it a story that compels me? Is it a character that compels me? Are these people that I feel that I can learn from and grow from? And is the paycheck right?
Yeah, that's
Right.
real.
Yeah.
So in the L Word, you appear as Stacy Merkin. So you're a journalist who gives dear old Jenny Schechter's book, Some of Her Parts, a bad review. This prompts Mia Kirshner to deliver one of Jenny's most famous lines, Stacy Merkin's a fucking cunt. So did you watch this show prior to appearing on it? And like, what was the vibe on set? Do people shout that at you? What is the like pre and post L Word situation?
I mean, I have to start off by saying that I've had a very unique experience in terms of the names of characters I've played.
Yeah, like what the fuck is that name?
They thought they were so clever with Merkin.
I know. So people don't scream that at me, but I definitely get quite a bit of vagina wig. For those of you that don't know what a merkin is, it is a vagina wig. And it's always great. I had watched the show, as I feel tons of lesbians did, because there hadn't been any other show like that on television, save for Queer as Folk. You know, it's really more focused on gay men than women. And within that, you know, I'm pretty much a homebody that doesn't really go out that much. And my circle of friends is very, very, very tiny. And so there wasn't a lot of identification in terms of the lesbian drama. You know, that was portrayed, and then getting to hear all these other lesbians identifying and be like, oh my God, that's me. That's me. But I mean, for fuck's sakes, Jennifer Beals knows how to rock a pantsuit.
Oh, she looks so good, yeah.
Yeah, so good. So good.
Heather, can you reveal here on You Might Know Her From your character's motivation? Like, did Stacy have it out for Jenny, or like, did she just really think the book was that bad? Like, did Jenny ping as a villain for Stacy Merkin?
What is the truth? This is something that I haven't really thought about in a very long time. And I desire to give you an honest answer. You know, I feel that, you know, she was probably pretentious and intellectually superior to a certain degree and thought that she knew some shit. And in one way, she was right. And in another way, she was completely wrong. And I think the moral of the story is sometimes you really just need to keep your mouth shut.
Thank you for humoring us. So, Heather, in 2004, you came out of the closet during the press junket for Princess Diaries 2 when you answered some sort of like, have you found a Prince Charming question with, yes, but she's a Princess Charming, which to us is very cool and badass, and I think like speaks volumes of your character. Did the Disney machine have an opinion about that? Did Garry Marshall have an opinion of that? Did you get pushback?
Well, nobody knew. I didn't even know.
It just like came out?
Yes, it was at the end of a long weekend of answering that same goddamn fucking question again and again and again and again and again and again. And I was one margarita deep, about to be two, and it just came out of my mouth. And I didn't really receive any quote unquote pushback from Disney. And Garry, if he had feelings, he saved it for his book and didn't talk with me about it directly, you know. But the truth is, at the end of the day, the fact that we even have to have conversations like this, the fact that it's even something that's brought up is baffling to me. The older I get, the more I really don't understand. Straight people aren't like, okay, Mom, Dad, I have something to tell you. I'm straight.
They should have to at this point. I'm ready for them to have to do it.
Well, it's an assumption, right? And what do they say about assumptions? It makes an ass out of you and me.
Yep.
My life has never really been linear, and I've never really done things by the book. So in that sense, it's pretty on brand for who I am as a person and that experience of coming out at that time.
So in January 2019, Anne Hathaway said there was a script for a third Princess Diaries film. Mm-hmm. Is that a thing? If it happens, are you going to be a part of it?
Well, listen, as I've said and will continue to say, when I know, everyone else will know. And that's it.
I want that Disney paycheck for you, though. Like, they need to get that third installment in place, lickety-split.
I received that. Listen, yes, Disney paycheck, any paycheck, please.
You've said that Garry Marshall is your favorite director that you've ever worked with. Can you tell us what was so great about him? We love him mutually, and we love Penny Marshall as well.
I mean, I've never worked on a film set other than a Garry Marshall film set that had a Thanksgiving Day parade or pumpkin carving contests. He believed that family was the most important thing, that it wasn't show business, it was family. And he really lived up to that creed by being incredibly warm, incredibly generous. And it's probably one of, if not the safest sets I've ever worked on. It felt like getting to walk into an energetic hug on a daily basis.
I love him so much. Also, Damien and I love the fact that he and Penny Marshall played a married couple in Hocus Pocus, which is so weird. It's so weird.
I love them, though. We were just talking about the other day how they feel like they have a gay sensibility. Like, they just were so, I don't know, whatever they exude was for us, for sure.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the camp. It's the ability to be on the lighter side of, we really can't take any of this too seriously. They understood that, and they knew that just in the greater sense of people are people are people. You love who you love, and you do what you're doing. That's the thing, and that's it. It's all right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Heather, I read an interview where you said that Dory Barton, who directed you in the indie Girl Flu, was your second favorite director after working with Garry Marshall because she made you feel valued as an actor and would say thank you, which seems like a low bar after a long day of shooting, but good on her. By our count, you've appeared in just a few features directed by women. So there's Girl Flu, Stuck, directed by Gillian Arminante, All I Want to Do by Sarah Kernican, Arresting Gina by Hannah Wire, and Getting to Know You by Lisanne Schuyler. So is it possible for you to compare the experiences on sort of a base level of being on a woman's set versus being on a man's set?
I know that I would like to work with more women, period. But again, just because you're quote unquote a woman doesn't mean that you also don't have internalized sexism. Doesn't mean that you're not having misogyny just seep through your pores. So it's not as cut and dry. You know, the reason that I loved getting to work with Dory was because she was kind, she was considerate, she was smart, and she was thankful. And I think a little goes a long way when you're working 14, 16, 18-hour days, especially on an independent film, and you're doing 7 to 10 pages a day of dialogue, which is a lot. Even if Dory had a penis, she would still be my second favorite director to work with.
You broke through at the age of 11 as misfit hero Dawn Wiener in Todd Solondz' now iconic 1995 Welcome to the Dollhouse. The movie launched your career and won you the Indie Spirit Award for Best Debut Performance. We love this movie. I have so much affection for it. But you have talked a lot about, as you aged into young womanhood, that this role really set a precedent for you being typecast as maybe a misfit. The film came out 25 years ago, which, oh my God, I cannot believe that. How do you look back at that experience now as a woman in her 30s? Do you have any sort of new perspective on it now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, deep compassion, deep understanding, and deep empathy, and deep love, and to a certain degree, wonderment. I'm so impressed with that young girl that so intuitively navigated that space. I was so keen on desiring to find out who I was as an actor, not only as an actor, as a being. And I don't think that anybody likes being kept in a box, because there's this idea that you can only do this one thing. And it made me feel, I think, for a time that I wasn't being supported as an actor. I wasn't being seen as Heather Matarazzo. I was being seen as Dawn Wiener. And there's a very big distinction. And if I'm going to be 100% honest, it's only been within the last few years that I've recognized how vulnerable that performance was. And I think for a long time, I felt a certain amount of shame about it. I let them see too much. I let them see too much of me. But I now today, as a 38-year-old woman, have a lot of compassion and awe. And fucking A, look at you. Wow, that's great. You know, when you're in it, it's hard to have that hindsight. You know, that's why they say, I mean, hindsight is 20/20. I mean, for fuck's sakes, 20/20 is also a lot of other things. You know, but really that's it.
No, but I mean, I think that is what you were saying. It's true. That's why everyone gravitates to that performance. It is so raw. It is so real. It isn't performative, and it's stunning and holds up beautifully. We were interested in knowing sort of what your relationship to Dawn Wiener is, because, you know, Todd Solondz' 2004 film had palindromes opening at Dawn Wiener's funeral, and the character then appears again in his 2016 film Wiener Dog, but she's played by Greta Gerwig. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You've said that you found out about Wiener Dog on Twitter, but like, I find that incredibly upsetting. I don't know how you feel about it today, but do you feel a sense of ownership over Dawn Wiener?
Well, of course I do. Of course I do, but that's the thing, is that once you release something, nobody can take Dawn Wiener away from me. I look at her on that bus singing the Hummingbird song. Even though her life is shite, she is still hopeful, and that's where I leave her. And the truth is that Todd created this character, created this world, and he's 100% within his right to do what he will with the character from his space that is Dawn Wiener. And I don't think that takes away from my experience of being in the embodiment in space that is Dawn Wiener. That's what's so great about film and about storytelling, is that we go to the movies to see ourselves. That's where the identification comes from. That's where the empathy comes from, the shared experience. Dawn is as much mine as she is yours and everyone else's, you know?
Heather, in Scream 3, you have one pivotal scene as Martha Meeks, Randy's sister, who sneaks onto the set of Stab 3 to deliver Randy's posthumous message to the gang. How did the role come around, and was the whole thing super secretive?
I mean, I just remembered I'd gotten a phone call that Wes wanted me to make a cameo, and would I do it? And I was like, fuck yeah, of course. Absolutely, 150 gazillion %. And this was way before social media. This was not at a time where if I shared it with somebody, the next thing you know, everybody and their mother is going to know.
Yeah.
And also, I never really talked about my work that much. I don't know if there was like an NDA or not. I don't remember. I just remember that Wes had asked me to do it, and I had said yes, and I was absolutely thrilled and honored. I'm always surprised when anybody knows who I am, period. Even still, because I forget. So yeah, it was an incredible experience. And please don't ask me about Scream 5, aka the new Scream. I'm not a part of it. And yes, that's it.
Okay, so Heather, you star in another horror film, Hostel 2, which was directed by Eli Roth, produced by Quentin Tarantino. And Eli Roth is known for his gore, and your, spoiler alert, your death scene required you to hang upside down naked with a blindfold and a gag before a woman ritualistically cuts you open and bathes into your blood. The movie was banned in 3 countries, but has a huge following. And you've said previously that you trained to be upside down so you could do it for up to 20 minutes at a time. Like, rewatching this, it was very difficult to watch. Were you okay on that set? Like, did they make you feel safe? Was it awful? Was it so messy?
No, I mean, there was no blindfold.
Oh, it was just the gag around your mouth.
There was a gag, and my hands were shackled behind my back. I felt safe, and with that, there was one moment, because they had my feet in stirrups, and there was no pad on the ground. There was nothing. It was just that tile bathtub. And I remember Eli being like, wriggle more. You're a fish on a hook. And at one point I felt my right foot starting to slip through one of the straps. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die, aren't I? I'm going to fall and break my neck and crack my head open and die. And so I very calmly got out of the thing and was like, I need to come down and you need to redo the straps on my feet. And after that, they made them extra tight and everything was fine. I kind of went into an artistic blackout. It was shot over 2 days, but I know that everybody was incredibly tense. I mean, I love the Czech people more than anything. They're my cup of tea in terms of their seriousness until you crack a funny. And I walked onto set, and there's a phrase in Czech that is "Dobrý den, kluci ven," and that means "good day, tits out." And so I walked onto set, and I took off my robe, and I was like, "Dobrý den, kluci ven." And it broke the crew up, and it dissipated any tension that was there. You know, because there's nothing worse than being on a set that is unnecessarily tense. And I think that they trusted me enough to do my job, and I trusted me enough to do my job. And it went off without a hitch.
Horror has such a huge, rabid fan base, and the Hostel franchise does as well. Like, have you had intense interactions with Hostel fans? Do you do horror conventions?
I don't do that. And that's not to say that I wouldn't ever do that. I just really haven't. I'm always grateful when people respond to my work, and I know that I've allowed them to feel something, which I feel at the end of the day is really my job. You know, totally. How am I going to make you feel? And that scene definitely made people feel as well as governments, apparently.
Okay, Heather, we've come to the point of the show that we call our rapid fire. It's going to be rapid for us, where we just get to sort of fire off non sequiturs at you. You can take as much time as you need.
Oh, but doesn't that kind of defeat the point of this?
Okay, we're ready. We just don't want to put the pressure on.
Yeah, we don't want you to feel like stressed out about having to answer quickly, but also we are all over the map with it.
Okay, go.
Okay. You played DJ's girlfriend, Heather, on the original iteration of Roseanne, one of our favorite shows of all time. Mm-hmm. Did Sarah Gilbert bestow any OG 90s lesbian wisdom to you as a young woman?
Absolutely not.
Oh,
no.
Do you have any good stories from that set?
I'll tell you. So I was doing Townies on the Carsey Werner lot.
Yeah.
That was a failed series.
Molly Ringwald, right?
Molly Ringwald, Lauren Graham, Jenna Elfman, Ron Livingston, Eric McCormick, who played my dad on that show. And I mean, I'm 13 years old on the Carsey Werner lot. And you have Third Rock from the Sun in one downstage. You have Sybil, which was right across from Roseanne. You have all of these different shows. And I grew up wanting Roseanne to be my mom. She had a toughness where it was like, I feel like she's somebody that would keep me safe. Like she'd stand up for me and fight for me. And every day at lunch while we were filming Townies, I would put hot water into a cup of noodle soup thing. And I would walk around the lot and I would just sneak into these different sound stages. And I walked onto the Roseanne soundstage, and one of the stage managers was there, and she had recognized me and was like, oh my God, huge fan of your work. I know Roseanne loves you, but today's not a good day. Try tomorrow. And so I left, and then I came back. Today's not a good day. Come tomorrow. Left, came back. Today's not a good day. And the fifth time of this happening, I'm like, maybe I really just should not come back here. But that like little tiny pushy voice was like, just go back one more time. And so I went, and she happened to be there that day. A soundstage is massive. It's a massive beast of space. And I'm on one end of the soundstage, and Roseanne is all the way on the other. And all of a sudden I hear a voice say, hey, you! And it's like somebody turned on the lights and all of, like, everyone's scattered. And it was just me. And it's a clear line. And she's like, yeah, you! Come here! And I go over. I fucking love you! What are you doing here? And I'm like, I'm doing Townies. Why the fuck are you on that piece of shit show? I want you on my show. We're going to write you a character. Who do you want her to be? You know, and my 13-year-old self was like, I want her to be an independent, strong-minded young woman that has some trauma in her past. And that was it. And I remember being so excited because we were supposed to start doing it in 2 weeks, and the 2 weeks came, and got a call that it wasn't happening then. And that seed of doubt was planted with, oh no, what if this doesn't happen? Like, it's the bracing for the impact of the heartbreak. And then she was a woman of her word, and I ended up doing, I think, like 4 or 5 episodes of that final season. It was absolutely, absolutely wonderful. And while I don't agree with Roseanne on a lot, sure. Like 95%, maybe even 98%, what I will say is that for that girl who was thrown into the deep end of the ocean, she was somebody who was consistently kind with me and loving and gentle and fiercely protective. And for that, I will always have a reverence for her in that space.
Yeah.
I'm glad she lived up in that moment to be sort of exactly who you thought she was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Heather, you had an arc on Grey's Anatomy. It's one of these, like, 2-part finales of a season, and you show up as a pregnant woman who's in a devastating crash. You're wearing a neck brace and also a pregnant belly for almost all of your scenes. Was that a terrible shoot? Like, did you have to pee and you couldn't because of the prosthetics and, like, all the accoutrement? Or was it, like, easy breezy because it's, like, such a well-oiled machine?
No, I'll tell you, my dad had died that day.
Oh, my fucking God.
And so I was, and I only told 2 people that had happened. So I will say that one of the greatest things that came out of it was getting to create a soul connection with Jerka that is still alive and flourishing today, you know. And Shonda had written Princess Diaries too, and so there was that connection as well. It was a wonderful experience, and I got to immediately channel my grief, you know, into that space. And for me, you know, work has always been the thing. Like, work has always been the thing where it's, what is the point of having feelings if you're not going to be able to utilize them for something bigger than yourself?
I'm so sorry. I mean, it is...
Not to be like, wah, wah.
No. I mean, that is your life, and it also was your job, and you were also very good on it, which also feels like a weird compliment. Like, you're very good in this arc, but it's like, it obviously is colored differently, knowing that you were really experiencing real grief as you were processing all of that on camera. Jesus. And
also, you know, I love babies. I love babies. So getting to also be able to work with a baby. And this is why I find myself to be somewhat of a strange duck, where most women in their early 30s don't want to start being cast as mothers. And I'm like, please sign me up. Please sign me up to be a mother on screen so my co-stars can be children. They're so much easier to communicate with and understand, I feel, than adults.
Okay, you appear in Sheryl Crow's music video for A Change Would Do You Good. Mm-hmm. Answer this for us once and for all. Does Sheryl Crow give off lesbian vibes?
I mean, Sheryl Crow gives off Sheryl Crow vibes. Do with that what you will.
There was just a period, I think, where I think she was giving off lesbian vibes at a certain point in the 90s.
But what is it? What is a lesbian vibe?
I don't know, but you know what it is when you see it, when you feel it. Do you know what I mean? It's like the ping that you get when you think like, oh, that person is giving me gay energy.
Does that mean ping, that person is making my vagina hot?
Somewhat. It could be that, but it could also be like, oh, wow, that is a gay person.
Maybe your young self was doing that, Anne. Maybe you were lusting for Sheryl.
No, I'm not alone. And I did have a thing for Sheryl. She was from Missouri like me, so I was into it. But I have a lot of theories. You don't have to agree with them. But you were on set with her, so I just needed to know.
I mean, I was also on set with Ellen DeGeneres that had just come out.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about the timeline.
She was in the cab. She was in the cab in that video.
Yes, and she was, I think, like one of, if not the first person that I came out to. Looking back, I think I was like 13 or 14. And looking back, I'm like, oh my God, I must have put her in the most awful fucking position where it's like, why is this 14-year-old child talking to me about her fucking budding lesbianism?
No.
Oh my God, Heather. Well, that's so sweet.
Was that on that set?
Yeah, it was on that set in between setups.
Oh.
Because I tried to come out to my adoptive mother when I was around 12 or 13, right before running away from home and like down the street to a friend's house for the first time, because the first girl that I had ever fallen in love with, it was like, I forbid you to see her. And I remember saying to her, why do you think I like watching Xena Warrior Princess and Ellen? Before like bolting. You know, and at that time, you have to remember that time was very, 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 very different, you know, and I was being raised by 2 people that were old enough to be my grandparents, that were strict Catholics, like Roman Catholic Italian, on Long Island. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that in terms of emotional crisis and when you're dealing with your sexuality. Yeah, but I look back at that time when I said that to Ellen, and I'm like, Oh man, like I hope I didn't make her feel like the response was almost like tight-lipped and almost like please don't just because especially back then, I mean even now but more so, you know, pedophilia and homosexuality go hand in hand and blah, 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 blah.
Oh, God.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I was not what I was expecting. I thought I was expecting a lot of
right.
kindness, of like lesbians, like camaraderie, of like queerness.
No, none at all. None at all. And I can understand that now. I completely understand where she potentially was coming from in that space. But I was also at that time so desperate to be embraced by those that had gone before me, and getting to have my own kind of Me Too experience, though in a completely different context. You know, yeah, but I think about that sometimes, how strange that must have been for her.
Yeah, that time was so complicated for her, I think, and I hadn't thought about it in those terms, and pedophilia terms. That's horrific.
Yeah.
You play Ryan Phillippe's sister Grace in the film 54, about the wild parties at the iconic nightclub Studio 54. Heather Matarazzo, what is the wildest Hollywood or Hollywood adjacent party you have ever been to?
I feel like if I could tell you, it wouldn't have been much of a party.
Pro move.
Fair.
Move.
Okay, you've said that you grew up loving Julie Andrews, and in hindsight, you wish that your 17-year-old self would have sat down and had a conversation with her on the set of Princess Diaries about her life and career, you know, while you had the chance. But when you finally did muster up the courage to speak to her, I think you said during the sequel, did she live up to your expectations? I
mean, exceeded and continually exceeds. I mean, she's really fucking Andrews.
Yeah, just checking.
Yeah, she is something. I mean, for fuck's sakes, that amount of brilliance that I have been so humbled and honored to work with is bar none.
I mean, she's my number one living of all time. But did you ever clock the rumors that she and Carol Burnett were longtime lesbians together?
No.
This is a long-standing Hollywood rumor. I'm obsessed with it. I don't really think it's true, but I do like to perpetuate it.
They're both amazing. That's why it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard that rumor, but I think that that's kind of sometimes what we do, right? Whether it's Oprah and Gail, and Julie and Carol, or whoever else it is of today. But yeah, no, I actually don't know that this is the first time I'm hearing of said rumor.
There's a great story about them like being in the hotel room, and I think it was like Mike Nichols and Blake Edwards were there, and they were walking, and they were like, let's do a bit where like when they come down the stairs, we pretend like we're kissing, and then they like do it as somebody walks by, and it's actually like Lady Bird Johnson, or it's some ridiculous. Like, it's literally an insane story. It's probably all fake, but I love it in my head.
I love that. That I'm gonna have to go, Jenna, Google search when this is over.
Yeah.
I love that Lady Bird Johnson was there for it.
That's the swerve.
Okay, Heather, you appeared alongside the likes of, and this is a laundry list, Jennifer Coolidge, Kristen Johnston, Rue McClanahan, Cynthia Nixon, Amy Ryan, Jennifer Tilly, Mary Bond Davis, Mary Louise Wilson, Lisa Emery, Adina Porter, and Julie Halston, who was a guest here on You Might Know Her From in the past. This was in the star-studded Broadway revival of The Women in 2001.
Yes.
Who of that sort of group was like your best friend, crony, the bestest person of the bunch? And who was the person who was like, maybe like you were like, oh, that's like a good story because that person is like eccentric?
Jennifer Coolidge and I developed a very, very close relationship throughout the run of that production. And you have to also like remember that this was right after 9/11 happened. So there was an atmosphere that really cannot be articulately described. There was a heaviness mixed with like a Holly Golightly flair. I mean, maybe mixed with a bit of Sally Bowles, just in the sense of we would do our show, and then every night after the show, we would go to Café Un Deux Trois, on 46th Street between, I think, Broadway and 6th, where we would have a massive long table. And every night I would get this pasta dish because I knew nothing of carbs and only that it tasted good. And we would just sit and we would drink wine. And then Coolidge and I would then go to the Playwright Tavern over on 8th Avenue for after drinks and stay up till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. There was definitely cocaine to be had. And just a wonderful, wonderful time. With that play, I had just gotten back from shooting a film that went nowhere, which I'm so thankful for. And 9/11 happened, and a few days after that, I had gotten a phone call saying that the woman that was supposed to be playing Jane the maid had been fired because she just didn't know her lines, and it had been a nepotism hire because her uncle was on the Roundabout Theater board, and her other uncle was who's the guy that murdered a few people? And
Robert Durst?
Yes!
Yes!
Yeah.
Wait, this was Robert Durst's niece? Is she an actor?
I mean, apparently not. And so they called me in to replace her, and I had 2 days of rehearsal before we went into tech and then previews.
Oh my God.
Where they had like a month of rehearsal. So there was a high velocity of energy that was pulsing through me because this was the first time I had ever done a Broadway play and didn't want to fuck it up in any way, shape, or form. And my character, there's a lot of moving back and forth because I'm playing the maid and picking up and doing things and having all of the props. Yeah, it was a roller coaster ride of epic proportions in so many ways, and it's an experience that I have deep fondness in remembering. I mean, for fuck's sakes, Rue McClanahan, are you out of your goddamn mind? What the fuck? Mary Louise Wilson?
Ugh, legend.
And Nixon? Like, what?
It is a very cool batch of women.
Yeah.
Also, that sort of like Broadway thing, I'm not sure even exists anymore. The like going out to dinner to every night after the show together, and that sort of camaraderie. I don't know that it exists in the same way.
Heather, you play a tearful sexual assault victim on the stand who is grilled by Keanu Reeves in the mystical thriller The Devil's Advocate. Mm-hmm. What was it like out acting a grown man at the age of 15? You're very good in it.
I received that. Oh, sweet Keanu. Oh, sweet Keanu, who I adore and really is one of the kindest people I've ever had the privilege of being with in any capacity.
I know you hear no bad stories about him in Hollywood, which feels rare and special.
Yeah. So I appreciate the compliment. I truly do. And yeah, I just remember that it was cold. It was January, and we were supposed to, be pretending that it was Florida and 95 fucking degrees. And yeah, it was a wonderful, wonderful experience, and Charlize's first film ever.
So cool.
Mm-hmm. Heather Matarazzo, thank you so much for joining us on the show. This has been a total pleasure.
Oh my gosh, yay! Thank you. Same for me. This was a lot of fun.
Wowza. So I love like all of the parts of that interview, but I do have to say that one particular moment that like really made me giggle, like while working on it in the edit, while listening to it when it came back, while listening to it today, was Heather being like, what is a lesbian vibe? When you were like pushing about Sheryl Crow. And she was like, I mean, you're like hot for this person? And you were like, ah. And I was like, Anne, is that what it is?
It certainly was, but it is also, sometimes it's a ping. It's a ping. It's something that you get where you think like, is this person a homosexual? It's just, I think when you know, you know. And it wasn't like, oh, she wears Birkenstocks and flannels and like stupid 90s tropes of like what it was to be a lesbian. It's just like a feeling that you get. I don't know how to articulate it better.
It's like when you meet somebody and you legitimately don't know if they are out or not, but you're like, is this person reads as gay to me? And then you're like, wait, they're not gay?
Yeah.
What?
Here's the thing. Okay, here's physically what it was about Sheryl Crow. She has very nice arms. She has incredibly toned biceps and triceps, and not like bulky, but like very toned arms. And like that combined with her guitar playing and low center of gravity made me get a lesbian vibe. So I didn't say that in the moment. That's what I'm saying now.
Ropey arms, beachy, wavy hair.
Low center of gravity. I'm going to tell you somebody else that has that same vibe. You might be surprised. Celine Dion, who discovered rampant lesbian rumors about this summer, and it just like blew my mind. But it's the ropey arms, and think about how low Celine's center of gravity is. Anyway, it's a thing.
Talked about it here many times.
It's a thing.
We're on board.
Anyway, I loved Heather. She really is a part of so many franchises that I'm really invested in, including The Princess Diaries and fucking Scream.
Yeah.
I really thought she was really fun and candid. The story about Ellen, the story about Roseanne. I mean, she was really for me, if I have to say it plainly.
I'm going to say for us, me and you.
For us.
But also, I hope for y'all who are listening.
Right. If not, we're happy having heard it ourselves.
And folks, if you liked it, you know the drill, right? We've like done this before. So if you like this, please make sure you're subscribed wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to You Might Know Her From. Leave us a little written review. Give us like suggestions. Like just all your review can be is just like the name of an actor that you want us to interview in the future. Please, 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 please give us a little love. It's the best thing you can do to keep us going.
Yeah. Also share those things on social media. Here's another thing, Damien, I didn't even tell you that I learned helps us in the business. It is bookmarking one of our Instagram posts about the show or sending it out to other people on your feed. Those are things that boost us up in the universe of podcasts. So just keep sharing, just keep saving, just keep, spreading the word. Damien, have you done the thing that we've started doing this season, which is connect this week's guest to next week's guest?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Thank you for stopping me so that I make sure that I got it. Yes, I did. And I'm pretty proud of it. Okay. So I didn't tell you this. I'm excited. Heather starred on Broadway in The Women with Jennifer Tilly.
Yes.
Who has a cameo and a tight relationship with the partner of next week's guest. And I'm very excited for this one. There's some very funny moments. And also this person also complete sort of like a family circle for us, if you will. So hopefully that's enough clues that will get your magnifying glasses up, and you can send us your guesses via email, DM, comments, text if you got it, whatever.
Great connection. I didn't see it coming, but that was choice. Folks, if you're not already, make sure that you slam that. Is that what they say? Slam, smash. Make sure you're subscribed to You Might Know Her From. That's not language I usually use, but I'm trying something on for size today. Wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find us on Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Just leave us that written review. Damien already told you what to do. And make sure that you're following us on Twitter and Instagram. You can find us at Damien Bellino and at Rodeman, RODEMANNE.
You Might Know Her From is produced by us, Ann Rodeman, and Damien Bellino. That's me, and that's this dummy.
As always, we want to thank our brilliant consultants at Grumpy Entertainment. That's Jason Jude Hill and Danielle Sears. And of course, all that editing you hear is also by the inimitable Danielle Sears.
Thank you to Gang. The music that underscores every episode you listen to is by Gang. You can stream or download Gang's music on iTunes or wherever you listen to music. Thank you to Gang. Are you thinking about how I misspelled inimitable?
No, I wasn't, but I was like, what is that word? And I was like, oh, I know.
I was like, what is that word? And then I was like, oh, I know what I meant. I guess I just auto-corrected or I didn't spell it right.